Look, sit down for a moment, because this is one of those stories that's worth hearing carefully. Imagine a forest so big, that even the echo seems to ask permission before passing through. It's hot, humid, full of strange sounds, cicadas singing, birds chatting, and leaves whispering ancient secrets. And it's exactly in this setting that the story of the famous Mokele-Mbembe begins. The people who live around the Congo River always talked about it with that serious yet mysterious tone, you know? Like when someone says, "I saw it, but I won't swear on it." They said that on certain days, the river became too quiet, calm in a way that felt suspicious. And whenever the water got like that, someone would always say, today Mokele-Mbembe is nearby. Now let me explain the name, because it's interesting right from the start. Mokele-Mbembe means something like the one who blocks the river's passage. So yeah, we're definitely not talking about a small creature. If it can make a whole river stop and rethink its life, imagine the size of it. People talked about this as casually as if they were discussing the weather. They said that sometimes a strange ripple would appear in the water. Nothing chaotic. It was more like something very large was moving slowly, without any hurry at all. Then came the classic comment, "That's not a fish, that's not a log, that's him." And here's the funny part, nobody spoke with exaggerated fear. It was more about respect. Like that big, quiet neighbor everyone knows exists. Some even swore they saw a long neck rise for just a second and then disappear again, as if saying, "I just came to take a quick look." The kids listened with sparkling eyes, the adults nodded quietly, and the elders always concluded, "That creature is ancient, older than many stories out there." And so, without noise or drama, Mokele-Mbembe introduced himself right at the start of the legend, not as a scary monster, but as a giant mystery, silent, watchful, and clearly the owner of the place. Now picture the scene with me. The sun was already high, the river flowing calmly, and everyone thinking it would be just another ordinary day. But then, when the water gets too quiet, you already know, this is not normal. I remember hearing people say, "See how strange the river looks today. It doesn't even seem like it's breathing." Suddenly, plop, plop, small waves appeared out of nowhere. Gentle, perfectly shaped, as if something huge was walking through the water very carefully, like someone trying not to wake anyone up. Then someone whispered, "It's him." And it didn't take long for a curious detail to show up, a long, smooth neck slowly rising. It wasn't a flashy appearance at all. It was more like it was saying, "Relax, folks, I'm just looking." Everyone stayed quiet, no shouting, no running. It felt like a shared moment of respect. The funniest thing was that Mokele-Mbembe never seemed to be in a hurry. While everyone else was tense, he appeared with the calm of someone who woke up early, had an imaginary cup of coffee, and decided to take a stroll by the river. A look here, another look there, and that was enough. Some said you could see part of his body moving with the water, creating huge shadows that seemed to dance along the riverbed. Others swore the ground trembled slightly, as if the earth itself was whispering, "Relax, he's just passing through." And you know what's most curious? He never seemed bothered by people watching. It was as if he was used to curious stares, like an old resident who knows everyone talks about him, but prefers not to chat. After a few minutes, poof, the neck disappeared, the water returned to normal, and the river continued on its way as if nothing had happened. Then someone would always break the silence by saying, "Well, now the day can really begin." And that's how Mokele-Mbembe continued to be seen, calm, gigantic, and mysterious, appearing just long enough to remind everyone of something important. In that river, nature is the one truly in charge. So, after those calm sightings of Mokele-Mbembe, people began to notice something curious. He didn't appear for no reason, not at all. It was as if there were an invisible clock saying, "Now is the time." I remember hearing an older man comment, with that voice of someone who has seen a lot in life, "This one doesn't come to scare. He comes to observe." And it made sense. When the river was clean and peaceful, with everyone taking good care of it, Mokele-Mbembe stayed quiet, off in his own corner. But as soon as someone went too far with the mess, the river changed its mood. The water grew serious, the wind softened. It almost felt like the forest fell silent just to pay attention. And then there it was. Gentle waves appeared, once again that slow, even elegant movement. No rushing at all. It was as if he were saying, without opening his mouth, "Hey, remember that this place isn't only yours." The funniest part is that no one needed anything explained. When Mokele-Mbembe appeared, everyone understood the message right away. It was like a look that needs no speech. No talking, no pointing. Just existing was enough. The children said he was the watchman of the river. The adults preferred to call him the ancient owner of the place. And honestly, both names fit him perfectly. He seemed to know every bend of the river, every tree along the bank, like someone who had lived there forever. And you know what's curious? Even though he was gigantic, he moved with care. No hurry, no disturbing the river for no reason. On the contrary, he passed by like someone tidying things up and then leaving, satisfied. When he disappeared again, the river went back to singing, the birds resumed their chatter, and someone would always let out a relieved comment, "See, he just came to check things out." And so Mokele-Mbembe gained a reputation not as a threat, but as a silent guardian. A protector who doesn't need words, only presence. A living reminder that the forest and the river have memory, and they watch everything. So it didn't take long for the story of Mokele-Mbembe to spread by word of mouth and cross rivers, cities, and even oceans. When people from outside heard that there was a giant resident living peacefully in the Congo River, well, curiosity hit hard. I remember someone saying with a laugh, "If that creature really exists, someone's going to want to check it out." And sure enough, they did. Explorers, researchers, adventurers, and even a few curious folks who seemed more lost than a compass without a needle started to arrive. They came with big hats, notebooks in hand, and that look of someone who thinks they'll figure everything out in 2 days. They asked everyone, "Have you seen Mokele-Mbembe?" And the locals would answer calmly, "Yes, but he doesn't keep a schedule." The funny thing is that these visitors thought it was enough just to reach the river and wait. They stayed there, staring at the water, writing everything down. Small wave here, noise there, shadow over there. Any falling leaf already became an important note. Some said they had seen large marks near the riverbank. Others swore the water moved differently when Mokele-Mbembe was nearby. But the same thing always happened. When they thought they were finally going to see everything, nothing happened. It was as if the creature knew exactly when someone was trying to catch him in the act. There were even those who joked, "This creature is smarter than we are." Meanwhile, the local people just watched, smiling quietly. They already knew, Mokele-Mbembe doesn't appear for those who only want to prove something. He appears when he wants to, simple as that. After days of waiting, many visitors went home with notebooks full, interesting stories, and a slightly frustrating certainty: the mystery remained. And the river? It stayed calm, as if it were keeping the secret along with the forest. In the end, one thing became clear: the more they tried to explain Mokele-Mbembe, the more he turned into a legend. And he seemed to like it that way. So after the curious folks left, scratching their heads and staring at notebooks full of notes, what always happens when no one is really sure about anything happened, the theories began. And wow, there were ideas for every taste. I remember hearing someone say, "To me, that thing is an ancient creature that decided to retire in the river." Another person would reply, "Not at all, that's a forest spirit with an exaggerated size." Some people said Mokele-Mbembe was like a dinosaur that lost its way in time and thought, "Well, I'll just stay here." Others believed it was the very soul of the river, just in a giant version. Every conversation almost turned into a lively debate, complete with big gestures and lots of imagination. The funniest part is that nobody argued about it. On the contrary, everyone laughed. Because deep down, nobody really knew. And when nobody knows, any well-told idea becomes a possibility. And the children, wow. To them, Mokele-Mbembe had a personality. They said it slept during the day, went for walks in the afternoon, and watched the stars at night. One little girl swore it only appeared when the river was clean and happy. What a beautiful thought. The elders usually ended the conversation with that mysterious phrase, "Whatever it is, it's there to remind us to take care of the place." And that made sense. The more the story grew, the more people respected the river and the forest. Not out of fear, but out of consideration. It was as if Mokele-Mbembe were a living symbol of balance. In the end, nobody needed the right answer. The mystery was part of the charm. And maybe Mokele-Mbembe itself laughed down there at the bottom of the river, listening to all those theories popping up non-stop. So, after all that, you know what changed? And you know what didn't? The world kept turning, the river kept flowing, and Mokele-Mbembe kept doing exactly what it always did, staying quiet when it wanted to and showing up only when it felt it was necessary. I like to think it watches everything from the depths, with the calm of someone who has seen many generations pass. People come, people go, ideas appear, theories spread, and there it is, peaceful, as if saying, "You all talk too much." The funniest thing is that even today, there's always someone who shows up full of certainty. "Now I'll prove that it exists." And Mokele-Mbembe responds in the most polite way possible. It doesn't show up. It almost feels like a joke, but it's as if the mystery were part of its personality. At night, when the sky fills with stars and the river reflects everything like a mirror, the elders keep telling the story. The children listen closely, imagining the size, the long neck, the calm way it moves. And nobody gets tired of listening, because every time the story sounds a little different. And maybe that's exactly the most beautiful part of it all. Mokele-Mbembe doesn't need to be seen to be remembered. It lives in the stories, in the laughter, in the respect for the river, and in the idea that not everything needs an explanation. In the end, as long as someone says, "Hey, have you ever heard of Mokele-Mbembe?" it continues to be there. Invisible, giant, and perfectly comfortable being a mystery. And hey, trust me, some secrets really do like to remain secrets. So this is today's video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the next story.